Hi everyone. My name is Yana Lyashenko, and I'm a Googleologist. I specialize in bringing targeted audiences to businesses with the exact parameters they need. I help you scale your online sales using those very same AI tools in Google Ads. In today's video, I'll be showing a fresh new case from my team. I would describe it like this. It was a huge gap in my life because, it seemed like this project, didn't really have any, how should I put it? Yes, their product is different from those of the big clients of the same type. Here, we have a real mixed bag of everything, so to speak. We have products for the home, for the kitchen, for cars, and basically, we have a lot of different things on the website. It might be that some of the products are different from the cases where we have hundreds of sales. I think we'll get this client to 100 sales a day, starting from 100 sales a day. But with this particular account, we really have to put in a lot of work. So, what's the problem? I think it's just that several factors have come together here, which I'll discuss further. Look, I'm not going to show all the details. How the ad campaign is set up, the structure, the products, the bidding strategies, and so on. Woman, let's be reasonable, right? I understand that some people don't like it when I just show and approve a case and talk about things vaguely. Let's put it this way. Anyone who really knows what they're doing will still pick up on what I'm saying. But to lay everything out for you on a silver platter, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. This is our time, the team's time, all the people who put effort into this, the money and time of the client, their patience, and so on. It's our nerves too, because honestly, I'm about to go completely gray, dealing with Google. So, here I'm showing a period that's a bit longer than the time since we started support. Our support started on the 20th. I'm looking at the first. In the CRM, it says somewhere around August 28th or 27th. That's what it shows. So it's roughly this period, this time frame. Why am I this? Let's do this. I'll just refresh the page now. We'll click around a bit now so you can be sure that I didn't just make up these numbers or anything. Because, for example, here it says average CPC. Let's switch to the CAM. Because I don't know, people say that someone might be writing things in, drawing stuff, or doing something else, making things up. So, look, as soon as we switch to the campaign, the numbers will be the same. Girl, why do I call this case? It was a huge gap in my life. Because, it was incredibly difficult. Even now, I'm not sure about this period of time that we have stabilized. I'm not completely sure it's going to be awesome, so there are really a lot of tests. There's not that much budget, not that much product, but a lot of tests have actually been run. Some of them are effective, some of them are not. And here you can see, not exactly pretty numbers. There are prices per sale as high as 50 or 60 hryvnias. But for a moment, there's also an outcome at 21, and here the cost per conversion is higher. So it seems like we're moving upward. I hope this trend continues, because here it really seemed like there were a lot of sales. But the cost per conversion was quite high, and that was the biggest problem. When we just started, remember when I mentioned in one of the shorts that scaling performance should actually be not too complicated and pretty straightforward. Because you either collect useful analytics and then start increasing your budgets, or you immediately train performance to work within certain limited bids. Woman, for us here, it's all about profitability and the cost per conversion. They're intertwined across different segments, product types, and so on. They're all personal, and they can be different. So, what do we have here? What's the problem with this? The issue is that it was very difficult to achieve a stable cost per conversion. You can see that even before the support period, right here, it's clear that it's just unrealistic, unreasonable. You can see these spikes here. The cost per conversion. It seems like everything's the same. The product assortment is the same. We're running the same things. Everything seems fine, but it all works completely differently. Here as well, look, it seems like things started to stabilize. It all seems great. 129 hryvnias, 28.88 conversions. Here, there are spikes in the cost per conversion. And then the performance just starts to drop off. A drop-off is when things start to pick up momentum. And then let's put it this way, part of the campaign here was actually cut in terms of budget, because it was still way too expensive. Woman, the cost per conversion is rising, and the cost per conversion has a direct correlation. That's not okay. Considering that we know the topic and the niche, it should be much lower. And then, when we start cutting them back and leave only the more or less effective tests, which also need to be optimized for cost per conversion, they drop off in impressions. So, this period of time, right here, see, this, it's like a chasm in my life. It was really hard to do anything with these performance campaigns to just get them to start showing. I understand that maybe, around September 20th, Google's own updates overlapped here. All these bugs that happened. The unreasonable budget drains, not in this account, but if you look across different accounts. See here, it's 1,500. Anything could happen. All of this could have just overlapped and, well, that's. But as another factor, we also couldn't manage to stabilize the cost per conversion here. And thank God, at least here, we started to see some improvement because what's the main problem here? It's that a lot of tests are being run. Woman, honestly, there are really a lot of tests being run here. Even here, when you see a lot of analytics, even the cost per conversion has gotten a bit better. So I'm showing you the overall trend, during both effective and ineffective periods. All these tests, well, they're incredibly complicated because the difficulty is that with large budgets, you just can't afford it since the system objectively overspends and doesn't deliver results. Tests of different variations also don't yield any results. Here, quite a lot has been done. Well, how should I put it? For this budget, for this product, for these KPIs, it's a pretty large number of tests. So here, different structures and different combinations have been tested. A lot was tested just to get at least some kind of result, so to speak. And what picture do we get? Right now, more or less, the performance is staying at a relatively unstable structure, and it's only temporary for us. We're going to try to even out the results now. The ones we've reached in terms of the number of conversions. Because if you look here, we objectively have more traffic, but fewer conversions. And here, the traffic seems to have a pretty good correlation. I mean, it's going more or less evenly. This indicates a pretty good conversion rate. So, we've finally found a conversion rate that's relatively decent. You can see here, right, the conversion rate was also pretty good during the period when there were only a few clicks and the client was being supported. But the cost per conversion was also high there because of the expenses. So, the cost per click was higher there and the expenses were greater. Here as well, you can see the conversion rate. Yeah, it's basically at rock bottom, 1.56, which is, well, like the bare minimum you can allow. And here it seems like there were more conversions. But the conversion rate really dropped a lot. And finally, it's starting to even out for us and stabilize within certain limits, which makes me pretty happy. I hope that from here we'll just hold on to this result and then move on to scaling up, because it's important to find a solid footing in the ad account. A solid footing in our context right now is actually a pretty complex structure, which consists, first of all, of partially advertising campaigns, according to my product distribution quadrant. This is the classic SWOT analysis. Maybe you studied this in management when you were getting your higher education. Management courses usually include SWOT analysis. These are the dead, dogs, cash, cows, and stars. In my case, these are the zeros. The last, most extreme category. That's how the division looks. I even have a company called Dogs. Strange as it may sound, but the dogs are actually doing pretty well. So, products that are super expensive and super critical aren't always what you'd expect. In previous tests, they were super expensive, otherwise they wouldn't have been called dogs. They actually delivered very little result or didn't generate any conversions at all. But now, across the whole account, they're in the top 3 ad campaigns that bring in conversions. Sorry for the wording. And the second combined structure is a bit of a different, more aggregated story for us. There's also another way to categorize products, like bestsellers, mid-tails, and long tails. They're divided based on the number of conversions over certain periods, and also by some other indirect indicators. So this is a relatively fluid situation, just like with the dogs and other categories. In other words, right now it's a kind of combined structure that's conditionally staying as it is. If you look at the last 14 days, the situation is improving significantly. Of course, here it still looks pretty expensive. I agree, because I take 14 days. There are still a lot of tests left here, and maybe we'll be completely excluding many of them soon. But even for the dogs, the cost per conversion has dropped a bit, and for the long tails as well, although there still aren't that many conversions. We have a top-performing ad campaign, but it's quite expensive and we need to try to stabilize it as well. But all this analytics, it's taking shape against the backdrop of this whole, just incredible number of, tests that we've had here. So, over 30 days, we have 330-3 conversions. All these conversions are purchases. Right now, I could break it down, but I just have a lot of conversions, including micro-conversions, that we don't use. This is a purchase. Here it is, a purchase, and at the very end, for the skeptics, here's a purchase. All these conversions, they're all purchase-related, so nothing here is made up, altered, or reworked, or anything like that. We just don't use micro-conversions for optimization, but for, well, for example, not for the purchase itself, but to assess the criteria for the initial quality thresholds of traffic when we have traffic coming in but we don't see any conversions. So basically, they help us more accurately evaluate the time lag between the click date and the conversion date that we receive. That's what it's mainly used for, analytics. In short, there are actually a lot of tests. I think the main issue is that we just couldn't get past this gap. It was really unstable and unusual. Maybe the problem with this gap is actually the number of these tests. Because, basically, the approach used here is more suitable for large projects that have hundreds of sales per day, but here there are fewer. Maybe this was also due to that nuance, because the structure that was used, even though it was launched in stages, optimized, and so on, still has these boundaries that are more suitable for large projects, not for small ones. Because, in large projects, it's also not just a matter of 1, 2, and you increase the budget and it scales up. Profitability gets eaten up there as well. There are also products with the wrong structure there. There are also products that don't work at all, some that do work, and so on. So, in short, this is a really interesting project. Honestly, it's really complicated when it comes to all these tests. The performance doesn't respond very actively to this whole picture. It's just an incredible amount of analysis. Looking at the change history, it seems like there have been so few changes, like, really, there could have been more. But there's nothing to go on. There's just not enough analytics to allow for faster changes. So, you could say, it's combined with technical tests, with the test of reworking remarketing, the test of reworking conversions, testing the attribution model, conversion windows, structure, and so on. So, the fact that things have started to stabilize a bit is basically the result of this whole combined process. You could call it a mess. In reality, it's just a bunch of tests merged together. Right now, we're looking at this picture as a whole, but if you look closely, here, you can really see that this line, even the orange cost per conversion, it's not just for 3 days anymore, it's for a longer period and it's showing a downward trend. Which really makes me happy. So even if I don't know, let's take the first one. And let's just look at the weekly data, just to see the weekly trend. You can see the dynamics. Honestly, this cost per conversion was so hard to achieve. It was like, as you increased conversions, the costs went up in direct correlation. Google kept spending more and more. I feel like everything just overlaps with each other. All these changes in AI, all the updates Google is making, their bugs, it's all connected. And they need to make sure they actually keep qualified employees at their company, instead of just saying, If you don't like it, go ahead and quit. Like, before they used to chase after these specialists, but now they treat them kind of carelessly. Maybe they're Gemini, or whatever it's called. Some people say Gemini, some say Gemini, I have no idea, is writing those AI messages for them. But honestly, sometimes you really have to hustle. In a small account that doesn't even have that many sales, but it still feels like an unbelievable amount of work. So it's not like you just launch one ad campaign and it takes off on its own. This client came in with a few ad campaigns. We're starting, let's say, on the 27th or 28th of August. So the client came in. I mean, he already came with some, let's say, not exactly great results. Here, for example, you can see it. So, based on the feedback on your YouTube, you can write to me and say whether this is just a coincidence, seasonality, or something else like that. And even if it is seasonality, right now battery-powered lamps aren't selling as well as they did during the shelling. So, guys, it's not robots here, and there aren't any generators either. I mean, this is honestly just the result of a ton of hard work by the people who were grinding away here. It's just a huge amount of work, basically just pure analysis. This is all the result of meticulous work by specialists. So that's a bit of a self-praising case. Maybe some people will like it, maybe some won't, but I'll proudly post it on my YouTube channel. Let it be.